All right, let's dive into something that, well, it touches every single one of us. Our money. We all know that feeling, don't we? That sense of being stuck on a financial treadmill, running and running, but never really getting anywhere.
Yeah, just spinning your wheels.
Exactly. Or maybe you're just curious, looking for a clearer path, maybe a shortcut to really understand how to make your money work for you, not the other way around.
Right.
So today we're exploring a blueprint, a plan that promises to shift that dynamic. It's really a plan for financial fitness, less about magic formulas, more about real, practical transformation.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is just how universal that feeling of financial struggle actually is. The source material we're looking at really highlights that. So many of us feel like gerbils in a wheel with our finances, just constantly busy, but not making real progress.
Yeah, no direction.
But it also puts forward this really profound idea that personal finance is basically 80% behavior. 80%.
Yeah.
And only 20% is, the head knowledge, the technical stuff.
Okay.
Which immediately brings up a huge question, right?
Yeah.
If it's mostly about our actions, our habits, then what behaviors do we actually need to change? And crucially, how do we change them?
That's the key. So our mission today is really to pull out the core insights from this hugely influential book, The Total Money Makeover.
Right.
And it's not just a what-to-do book, is it? It's really a how-to-do-it plan. It carefully weaves together inspiration and, solid information into a step-by-step process. We're going to explore its basic principles, debunk some common money myths, and there are a lot of those.
Oh, yeah. Deeply ingrained.
And reveal these actionable baby steps that promise a path towards financial freedom.
And the real power of this material, I think, is exactly that process-driven approach. It gets that most people kind of know what they should do.
Intellectually, yeah.
Right. Intellectually.
Yeah.
The challenge is actually doing it. Think about losing weight. We all know it's exercise more, eat less, basically.
It's simple, not easy.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
Simple, not easy. The real value comes from the clear action plan that makes it doable. So this deep dive, hopefully, will shine a light on that action plan and show how it's helped millions of people actually act on information that maybe isn't brand new, but it's packaged in a way that makes it achievable.
Okay, so let's start by setting the stage. Why is a total money makeover even necessary for so many people?
Good question. Where does the need come from?
Well, the author himself, he speaks from pretty raw personal experience. He talks about going completely broke, even though he thought he was so smart, like he was somehow immune to the rules of risk.
That feeling of invincibility.
Yeah. And he describes this pervasive feeling of just being sick and tired of being sick and tired, constantly battling debt, feeling totally out of control.
That heaviness he talks about.
Exactly. And he shares this statistic that really hits hard. Apparently, 90% of people in our culture regularly buy things they just cannot afford.
90%? Wow.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it? It makes you kind of look at your own habits.
It really does. And that section really drives home the pain point. The author paints such a vivid picture of that heaviness when it's time to, do the bills.
Yeah.
That feeling of hopelessness, like you said, the gerbil in a wheel. He talks about his own situation. Too much debt, too little savings, and no sense of control over my life. Feeling trapped, like a slave to some banker, to the government, and to the needs of my family.
That's intense language. Slave.
It is. And when you connect that personal feeling to the bigger picture, it really suggests that a huge chunk of our emotional well-being is tied directly to our financial state.
Makes sense.
And the source is pretty blunt about it. The core problem isn't usually external forces. It's largely you, your habits, your beliefs. And so the challenge, the transformation, also has to come from you.
So it's not about blaming the economy or something else.
Right. It's not about finding secret formulas or just, thinking positive thoughts without action. It's about engaging with a real, tangible plan for change, one that gives you a concrete path forward.
Okay. And this leads into a really interesting part of the book, these two powerful analogies he uses. They really shine a light on financial vulnerability.
Yeah, the metaphors are great.
First, there's even a turkey can fly in a tornado. Meaning, even really stupid ideas can seem to work when the economy's booming until things get tough, until they're stress tested.
Once reality hits.
And then Warren Buffett's famous line, when the tide goes out, you can tell who was skinny dipping. So what's the real message here for our finances?
Well, these metaphors are just incredibly insightful. They're a real wake-up call. The flying turkey shows how good economic times can mask really fundamental flaws in how we handle money.
Like what?
Like, buying things they couldn't afford with money they didn't have to impress people they didn't even like. That kind of behavior. It breeds this dangerous sense of hubris, a denial of risk.
Right, thinking it'll always be this good.
Exactly. It's like building your financial house out of straw. Looks fine when the sun's shining, but the minute a storm hits, poof.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Jim Collins, in his book, How the Mighty Fall, actually points to hubris as the very first stage of decline for big companies. And it applies just as much to personal finances. The author admits he bought into these myths lies about money and built his own house of cards that just collapsed.
And the skinny dipping one.
That just clarifies it further. When the economic tide goes out, and it always does, eventually those who built their finances on shaky ground, maybe without cash reserves or with too much debt, they're left completely exposed.
Nothing to hide behind.
Right. And it makes you ask yourself, how many of us might be skinny dipping right now without even realizing it, just because the tide's been high for a while?
That's a scary thought.
It is. But the source gives a great counterexample. This guy, Chris, 7 years into his branch, Total Money Makeover, totally debt-free, house paid off, $38,000 emergency fund.
Wow, solid.
Very solid. So when his boss comes in, looking all pale and stressed, to tell him he's being laid off, Chris's reaction, cool, how much is the severance?
That's amazing.
Isn't it? It just perfectly illustrates the peace and control that comes from being prepared versus the panic most people would feel.
Okay, so we see the need, we see the risks. Now, let's talk about the roadblocks. What stops people from getting financially fit? The author points to denial as a huge one.
A big one.
He compares it to looking in the mirror and saying, I'm not that fat, just a bit flabby, rationalizing. He says you need this focused, almost life or death intensity to really break those spending habits. So what is this denial exactly? How does it sneak up on us?
That idea of financial flabbiness is so good because it captures how gradual it often is.
Right.
The book uses that classic story, frog in boiling water. Drop a frog in boiling water, it jumps right out. Put it in cool water and heat it slowly.
It just sits there.
Exactly. It never senses the danger until it's too late. And that's how it is with our finances sometimes. Little changes, a bit more debt here, a bigger car payment there, they creep up on us.
Incremental doom.
Pretty much. And the real enemy, the book argues, isn't the absolute worst case scenario. It's just being fine, being average, complacent.
Because fine doesn't motivate change.
Precisely. It makes you wonder, right? Are you settling for average when actual financial winning is possible? The source says most people don't find the courage to change until a crisis hits. Like Sarah and John in the book. John gets laid off their financial heart attack.
The wake-up call.
That jarring wake-up call shattered their denial, forced them to confront their habits, and ultimately allowed them to get financially healthy. It works. But ideally, you want to make the change before the crisis, right?
Definitely. Okay, so beyond denial, the book really goes after these pervasive debt myths. It says our culture has sold us debt so aggressively that many people can't even imagine life without payments.
It's true. It's become normalized.
So what are some of these critical myths we need to bust? Why are they so dangerous?
Yeah, this section is crucial. It challenges stuff we often take for granted as just the way things are. The author really urges you to, let your guard down and consider that maybe the American way of borrowing is fundamentally flawed. He argues, from his own painful experience, that debt isn't just a tool. It always adds significant risk that usually outweighs any benefit you think you're getting. He says it was only after losing everything that he truly understood how dumb and dangerous that belief was.
And he backs this up.
Oh, yeah. He cites data like a survey showing 75% of the Forbes 400, the richest people in America, said the best way to build wealth is to get and stay debt-free.
75%, not what you usually hear.
Not at all. And he points to big companies like Walgreens or Cisco that operate debt-free. Okay, so let's break down some specific myths.
What's it?
Myth number 1, debt consolidation saves interest. The truth, the book calls it dangerous because it only treats the symptom.
Not the cause.
Exactly. You're just shuffling debt around, not changing the spending habits that got you there. It's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Okay.
Myth. Debt is a tool for prosperity.
Yep.
We talked about this. Author's experience says no. Adds huge risk. Wealthy people mostly avoid it. Proverbs 22.7 says it perfectly. The borrower is slave to the lender.
Heavy.
Myth. Loaning money to friends or family helps. Truth. It often ruins relationships. That story of Joan losing a friendship over $50,
Yeah.
it shows how shame and guilt just poison things.
Yeah, I can see that.
Myth. Co-signing helps someone out. The book calls this a path to broken hearts and broken wallets. It almost always damages the co-signer's credit. Proverbs even calls it stupid.
Ouch.
Think about Joe, still paying $16,000 for his brother's repoed mobile home 10 years later. Or Brian, whose girlfriend vanished with the car he co-signed for.
Nightmare scenarios.
Totally. Then there's payday loans and rent-to-own. Myth. There are viable options when you're broke. Truth. It's just legalized loan sharking. Interest rates over 650% sometimes.
650%.
Insane. And rent-to-own traps you into paying way, way more for items than they're worth.
Like that washing machine example.
Right. Okay. Myth. 90 days, same as cash, is a good deal. Often it's a trick. Back-charged interest, sometimes fraudulent charges, ends up being a huge hassle, even court.
Not worth the risk?
Not at all. Myth. Car payments are just a way of life. Cold, hard truth. A new car loses like 60% of its value in 4 years. That's like throwing away $100 a week on a typical car.
Wow.
And the average millionaire drives a 2-year-old car, no payments, leasing, even worse. The most expensive way to drive a car, often with hidden interest rates around 14%.
Hidden interest.
Yep. The auto lobby keeps disclosures weak on leases. Even 0% interest on a new car doesn't stop that huge value drop.
Okay. What about mortgages? Myth. You need credit to get one.
Truth.
Yep.
You can get a mortgage with what they call manual underwriting if you've lived right, paid bills on time, even without a FICO score. There are alternatives.
Good to know. Credit cards? Myth. Rewards and security make them worthwhile.
The book calls this a huge deception. People spend way more, like 47% more with plastic than cash because it doesn't feel real.
The pain isn't there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those airline miles, 90% never get redeemed. Millionaires don't get rich on bonus points. The warning is stark. When you play with snakes, you get bitten. He even calls out companies for kid branding, targeting kids with toys to hook them on cards early.
Oh.
Calls it immoral.
Wow. Okay, nearly done with these myths.
Just a few more quick ones. Myth. Debt management companies save you. Reality. They trash your credit like a bankruptcy and don't fix the behavior.
Symptom, not cure again.
Right. Myth. Credit repair kits work. Truth. Only inaccuracies can be removed. Accurate bad stuff stays. Trying to lie is fraud.
Makes sense.
And finally, the big one. Myth. Bankruptcy is easy, a fresh start. Truth. It's described as a gut-wrenching, life-changing event, causing lifelong damage, shame, recurring mistakes. That family filing 3 times, the husband having heart attacks.
Heartbreaking.
It destroys hope in your financial reputation. It's not an easy out.
Man, that's a lot. A really comprehensive takedown of how debt culture has just permeated everything.
It really has.
So it sounds like our whole society has kind of bought into this massive lie about debt. And breaking free takes serious, deliberate action. It's uphill, especially when, friends and family might ridicule you for trying.
The monkey analogy.
Yeah, like those monkeys pulling down anyone trying to get the banana. We just repeat the lines about needing debt. Even if it's dragging us down, it takes a real heart-level change, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That monkey study is brilliant. Even when the reason for pulling others down, the cold water punishment, was gone, the behavior persisted. New monkeys just did it because everyone else did.
Wow. Social conditioning.
Powerful stuff. People trying to live debt-free often face that same ridicule just because debt is so ingrained into our culture. It makes the journey kind of lonely but necessary.
Okay. So beyond debt, there are also money myths, things that promise quick or easy wealth. Gambling, certain insurance products. What are these illusions and how do they trip us up?
Yeah, this tackles the shortcuts, the false hopes. The core message here is that real wealth comes from energy, thrift, and diligence, not dumb luck. It exposes the dumb math and stupid tax hidden in lots of tempting offers.
Okay, like what?
Well, myth. Gambling, like the lottery, is a path to wealth. Truth. It's just false hope, denial. That stat is staggering. 40% of lower-income folks think the lotto is their best shot at retirement savings.
That's incredibly sad, actually. Shows a lack of a real plan.
It really does. Myth. Mobile homes are a good investment for ownership. Truth. They depreciate incredibly fast, like living in your new car. Financially, that $25K double wide becomes worth maybe $8 in 5 years.
Ouch. Not an asset.
Definitely not. Myth. Prepaying your funeral is wise. Truth.
Right.
Tree planting is wise. Helps your family. Prepaying is financially unwise. Invest that money instead. That $3,500 could grow to over $360,000 by age 78 at 12%. Way better use of capital.
Huge difference. What about insurance? Myth. I can't afford it.
That's a dangerous one. Some insurance is absolutely essential. Remember, the #1 cause of bankruptcy: medical bills.
Right. So what is essential?
The book recommends auto and homeowners with high deductibles to save on premiums, but high liability limits for real protection.
Okay.
Term life insurance, 10 times your income. It's cheap, and crucially, never use it for savings. Long-term disability, super important. You're way more likely to be disabled than die young. Best through work, usually.
Got it.
Health insurance, absolutely vital. Look for high deductibles, maybe with an HSA, a health savings account for tax-free medical savings, and long-term care insurance if you're over 60 to protect your nest egg from massive nursing home costs.
And what should we avoid?
Definitely avoid whole life and universal life insurance. They're described as super overpriced, high-fee products with terrible returns like 2.6 to 7.4%. And the worst part, the savings part often doesn't even go to your family when you die, just the face value.
Serious.
Yeah. The advice is blunt. Buy cheap term insurance and invest the difference yourself. Even if it's just in a cookie jar, you'd likely do better. That story of Steve and Sandy really drives it home. Health insurance covered $100 K in cancer bills, and having term life before he got sick was critical. Insurance isn't optional, it's foundational.
Wow. Okay. So beyond myths and denial, two more big enemies.
No.
Ignorance and keeping up with the Joneses. Why are these so powerful?
Yeah, this chapter digs into the psychology and social pressure. Ignorance isn't about being dumb, it's lack of know-how. And the warning is stark. What you don't know will kill you financially. Just trying harder without a map leads to more wrecks.
Like driving blind.
Exactly. And then the Joneses problem. That deep human need for approval, for respect, the crazy irony. The Joneses you're trying to impress are probably broke themselves.
Uh-huh. Right. The book The Millionaire Next Door showed that.
Precisely. Real millionaires often don't live flashy lives. They live on less than they make, pay cash. They aren't trying to impress anyone.
So chasing the Joneses
Drives people to wreck their finances just to look wealthy. Creates financial fakes. And the pain of scaling back, of saying it's not in the budget, it's immense, especially with family and peer pressure. Sarah's story is powerful, lying awake, stressed about telling her family she wouldn't do the expensive holiday stuff anymore.
That took courage.
Huge courage, her breakthrough. Realizing, I am not going to be led into well-dressed poverty by peer pressure anymore. Breaking free from needing that approval.
That's it, isn't it? The Joneses are broke. Chasing them is chasing well-dressed poverty. It really takes that heart-level total money makeover to beat the addiction to approval. You have to spot your own weakness, cars, shopping, bailing out adult kids, whatever it is, and choose contentment over what others think. That Bible verse, godliness with contentment is great game, really applies here. It's about changing your heart, not just your spreadsheet.
So true. And you mentioned your own experience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. After I went broke, I ended up driving this borrowed, beat-up Cadillac covered in Bondo after having a Jaguar. It wasn't fun by any stretch, but it was necessary. It forced a heart change, helped me break that addiction to cars as status symbols. Humbling, but crucial. Okay. We've cleared the decks. Denial, myths, the Joneses. Now let's get to the plan itself. Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. Step 1, save $1,000 fast for a starter emergency fund. Why $1,000 specifically, and why the rush?
Right, this is step 1, the absolute foundation. And yes, the emphasis is on fast. Do something radical if you have to deliver pizzas, sell stuff online, have a huge garage sale. Get that $1,000 put aside quickly.
But why is it so critical?
Because it protects your momentum. The book calls small, unexpected things Murphy's.
Murphy's Law.
Exactly. A flat tire, a small medical bill. Without that $1,000 buffer, those little Murphys can completely derail your plan to get out of debt. You end up having to borrow again, right back where you started.
Oh, okay. It's a buffer.
It's a buffer. Like a light protein shake before a workout, the book says. Prevents injury, stops you falling off a major money cliff. And it has to be liquid, easily accessible cash. Lily's story sums it up. Saving her first $500 gave her newfound hope, a feeling of power and control. It's psychological, too.
Makes sense. And it busts that myth about debit cards being riskier than credit cards.
Just flat out says, nope, and adds that great line. If the broke Joneses think what you're doing is cool, you're probably going the wrong way. If they think your saving is crazy, you're probably on the right track.
Love that. Okay, baby step 2. This is where it gets really interesting for a lot of people. The debt snowball. This seems to be where huge shifts happen. How does it work? And why is it so effective, even if it seems, well, mathematically backward?
The debt snowball. Yes, this is the core engine for getting rid of debt. It's simple in concept. List all your debts except the mortgage, smallest balance to largest. Ignore the interest rates.
Ignore them completely. That feels wrong.
I know. That's what everyone says. The author's line is classic. If you were so fabulous with math, you wouldn't have debt, so try this my way.
Huh, fair point. Okay, so list them smallest to largest. Then what?
You pay minimums on everything except the smallest debt. You attack that smallest one with everything you got. Gazelle-intensity, he calls it. Every extra dollar goes there.
Gazelle-intensity, like running for your life from the debt cheetah.
Exactly. Once that smallest debt is gone, boom. You take the entire payment you were making on it, minimum plus extra, and add it to the minimum payment of the next smallest debt.
Ah, so the payment amount snowballs.
Precisely. It gets bigger and bigger as you knock out each debt. The power is behavioral, not mathematical. Yes, paying high interest first saves a bit more money, but the snowball creates quick wins. Psychological victories. That momentum becomes addictive.
So the feeling of progress keeps you motivated.
Hugely. Think about that typical American family paying almost $2,000 a month on consumer debt. The book shows if they invested that instead, they could have $5.5 million in 28 years. That's the potential locked up in those payments.
Mind blown.
But you need that gazelle intensity. No getting sidetracked by get-rich-quick stuff. If your budget's too tight to even start, you might need to dynamite the logjam, sell stuff, get an extra job.
Drastic measures.
Sometimes necessary, and crucially, if you have to use your $1,000 emergency fund, you pause the snowball, rebuild the $1,000, then restart. Protect the buffer.
Got it. Protect the foundation.
Amanda and Steve Farrar's story is amazing here. Sold their new Jeep, bought used, cut back everywhere. Paid off all their debt in 35 months. Changed their family tree, they said. Or the woman who yelled, "Oh yeah," every time she paid one off. It's emotional.
You can feel the relief. Okay, so debt's gone, except the mortgage. Step 3, finish the emergency fund. Time to kick Murphy out. This isn't just $1,000 now, is it? What's fully funded?
Right. Step 3 is about building a serious safety net. Fully funded means saving 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses. Not wants, needs.
3 to 6 months, that's significant.
It is. But this is your Murphy repellent. With this fund, big unexpected problems, job loss, major illness become inconveniences, not catastrophes. Remember that stat. Almost half of Americans couldn't cover 1 month's expenses. This fund fixes that vulnerability.
How do you decide between 3 or 6 months?
It depends on your situation. If your income is unstable, commission-based, maybe you lean towards 6 months. If you have a very secure job, maybe 3 months is enough. It also depends on your spouse's comfort level.
The security gland thing he mentions.
Yeah. He points out often women feel the need for that security more acutely. Stress levels go way down when that fund is full. It's about peace of mind for the whole family.
Important point. What if you see trouble coming, like expecting twins or a layoff?
Good question. The advice is clear. If a big storm is visibly on the horizon, pause the debt snowball, if you're still on it, and pile up cash into the emergency fund first. Weather the storm, then go back to the plan.
Makes sense. Prioritize immediate safety.
Exactly. And if you don't own a home yet, saving the down payment comes after this step. It's baby step 3B. Don't rush into a house with debt and no emergency fund that's just asking for trouble.
Got it. Build the foundation first. Okay. Step 4. Maximize retirement investing. Emergency funds full. Now it's time to build serious wealth. How does this plan define retirement? It's not just stop working, is it?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah.
This step shifts gears big time from defense, debt elimination, emergency fund to offense, wealth building. Retirement here means reaching financial security so you can do what you want to do.
Financial independence.
Exactly. Maybe you keep working because you love it, like Harold Fisher designing churches at 100. The goal is freedom, dignity. Sadly, 70% of Americans don't think they'll retire with dignity. Many are pinning hopes on the lottery.
Which we know is a myth.
Right, so the plan's directive. Invest 15% of your gross income for retirement.
15%. Okay. Invest in what?
The recommendation is growth stock mutual funds. Historically, they've averaged just under 12% returns long-term, 5+ years. The advice is to spread that 15% evenly across 4 types.
Okay.
1, growth and income. Think large-cap blue-chip stable companies, maybe dividends. 2, growth, mid-cap, or maybe an S&P 500 index fund aiming for appreciation.
Got it.
3, international, exposure to global markets. And 4, aggressive growth. Small cap emerging markets, higher risk, higher potential reward. Diversification is key.
4 types, spread evenly, and the goal.
Financial independence. Being able to live comfortably on about 8% of your nest egg each year, That's assuming 12% growth minus 4% for inflation. So if you want $40,000 a year, you'd aim for a $500,000 nest egg.
That makes it tangible.
Yeah. And the power of starting early is huge. Joe and Susie saving $625 a month from 30 to 70 in Roth IRAs could end up with nearly $8 million tax-free.
$8 million.
It shows the magic of compounding. It's never too late to start, but starting early makes an enormous difference. And don't count on Social Security. The message is clear. It is your job to take care of you and yours.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility.
Powerful. Okay, baby step 5, college funding. For parents, this is a big one. Student debt is crippling. How does the plan tackle college?
It starts with perspective. The book says college degrees do not ensure wealth. Cites research that success is like 85% attitude, perseverance, diligence, only 15% formal education.
Interesting. So don't sacrifice everything for a degree.
Right. The goal is to fund college without debt for the kids. But remember that stat. 91% of families have saved little or nothing. That's why we have a student loan crisis.
So how do you save effectively?
The top recommendation is educational savings accounts, ESAs, funded with those same growth stock mutual funds. The big advantage, they grow tax-free, and withdrawals are tax-free for education expenses.
Like a Roth IRA for college.
Exactly. That example is powerful. $2,000 a year from birth to 18 and an ESA at 12%. Could grow to $126,000 tax-free. A prepaid tuition plan over the same time might only yield $72,000.
Big difference. What about 529 plans?
They're an option too, especially for older kids or pricier schools. But the advice is to avoid the life phase or fixed portfolio options inside them. They often have poor performance or you lose control. Pick your own good mutual funds within the 529 if possible.
Okay. Any other options?
Military service, as mentioned, can provide a free education, but the main point is resourcefulness and diligence matter.
Yeah.
Even if you start late, you can get kids through school debt-free. That's the goal. For kids, grandkids, break the cycle.
Break the cycle of debt. Okay, baby step 6, the big one, the financial marathon. Pay off the home mortgage. A lot of people cling to mortgages, tax breaks, good debt. What's the argument for wiping it out completely?
Yeah, reaching this step makes you a true marathoner in wealth building. Takes serious dedication. And yes, it directly challenges that conventional wisdom about mortgages being good debt.
How so? The tax deduction seems real.
It's real, but the book argues it's no bargain. You wouldn't spend $10,000 in interest just to save $3,000 in taxes, right? You're still losing $7,000.
Good point. Never thought of it quite like that.
And the core principle comes back. All debt adds risk, period. That stark line, 100% of foreclosed homes had a mortgage. Debt creates vulnerability.
Yeah.
The skinny dipping analogy again.
So bust those mortgage myths, too.
Absolutely. Myth. Keep it for the tax deduction. Truth. No bargain, net loss. Myth. Mortgages are good debt. Truth. All debt adds risk, which needs to be factored in. Financially savvy people weigh risk, beta. They don't just look at potential return.
Right. What about ARMs or balloon mortgages if you plan to move?
Myth. That's wise truth. These shift risk to you, the consumer. Especially dangerous when rates are low. They often lead to trouble, foreclosure. Balloon payments can just pop.
Sounds scary. And home equity lines, HELs.
Explicitly called out as dangerous. They are not an emergency fund. Why? Because the bank can call the note demand repayment, especially during economic downturns, forcing you to sell your house at the worst possible time.
Wow. Okay, so the goal is zero debt. What's the feeling like?
The book describes immense peace and control. No payments at all. Big expenses become just inconveniences. It takes, on average, 7 years from starting the whole makeover to reach this point. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
7 years on average. Incredible dedication. Okay, final step. Baby step 7. Build wealth. We've paid everything off. We're investing. College is funded. What's the ultimate point of building wealth? It's not just about having a big pile of money, is it?
No, definitely not. This final step really redefines wealth. It's not an escape mechanism, the author says, but a tremendous responsibility. He boils down the purpose of money to 3 things: fun, investing, and giving.
Fun, investing, giving.
And crucially, he encourages doing all 3, even in small ways, right from the start of the journey, and just ramping them up as you progress. By step 7, you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, financially ripped. You have muscle. Now, what do you do with it?
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, break down those 3 uses. Fun.
Fun means enjoying the rewards guilt-free. Buying that luxury item, the $30K watch, the $50K car, the $700K house, when you can actually afford it without it impacting anything else. It's releasing the kid in us for that ice cream after being good, like Michael getting his Harley. It's pure joy then, not pretense or financial strain.
Nice.
Investing.
continuing to grow your money. It becomes like a game where your money works harder than you do. This is the pinnacle point. Wealth starts finding you. Your money never gets sick, never needs a vacation. It just works 24/7.
Cool concept. Giving. This is called the most mature part, and maybe the most fun. Leveraging wealth for impact, lifting others up, buying bikes for inner city kids, handing out $100 bills anonymously, being a secret Santa like Larry Stewart, who gave away over $1 million. It's about profound joy and purpose beyond yourself.
That sounds incredibly fulfilling. Any final advice on managing this wealth?
Yes, always manage your own money, but surround yourself with a team of teachers. Estate attorney, CPA, insurance pro, investment pro, realtor, teachers, not salesmen. Be aware of conflicts of interest. The salesman is chasing a commission, remember?
Got it. Build a team of trusted advisors who teach, not just sell. It's really about having that financial muscle, that Schwarzenegger body, and being truly intentional about using it for yourself, for your investments, and for others. That's the real culmination of the makeover, isn't it? That glorious ride down he talks about, wind in your hair, financial stress, a distant memory. Wow. Okay, that journey through the Total Money Makeover, from facing denial and busting those myths, all the way through methodically working the baby steps, it's definitely profound.
It really is a journey.
It's clearly a challenge, a marathon, as you said, but the promise is that glorious ride down, a life where money serves you, where you have real financial peace.
As you reflect on this deep dive, what really stood out most to you?
You know, what really stands out is that financial fitness isn't just about the numbers on a spreadsheet. It's truly a total process. It affects your emotions, your relationships, even, as the book suggests, your spiritual condition. That core commitment to live like no one else now, make those sacrifices so you can live like no one else later, with genuine freedom and generosity, that fundamentally changes your entire life.
Yeah, it's a paradigm shift. It really is. And it leaves us with, I think, a really important, maybe provocative question for everyone listening to think about. What money thing are you currently doing, maybe even unconsciously, mostly just to impress other people?
That's a tough question.
It is. And then the follow-up. What would it truly take deep down at that heart level for you to let go of needing that external validation and fully, truly embrace contentment and real financial freedom?